Why, hello, it is I, Chris Brogan. It is time for the news. The news is where I go through, find a bunch of different articles and stories that I've read that I found were kind of interesting and share them with you. If you want to follow along, go to chrisbrogan.com/CBM and you will be able to find what's going on and all the different articles I've shared. Again, what I do is I put you a whole bunch of notes together and then I give you what you need to do to succeed. Work is calling me. Hang on one quick second. Da, 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 da. Sorry, pardon the little delay. Yes. I'm recording a video, period. All right, back to it. So, again, here's how we watch the news. Again, you go to chrisbrogan.com/CBM to check it out yourself. You can follow along with my notes for the day. Everything will be great. So, I've been following the story of what's going on with Bodega. Bodega is a startup by these two people that decided they wanted to create an interesting variation on sort of vending machine kind of convenience culture. And in this, they really got upset, raised the ire of a lot of people who didn't like the fact that they appropriated the culture and name Bodega from that market space, which is little, small mom and pops, very common in New York and California and those sorts of places. So in this article, the whole concept is 7 lessons that white people can learn from the apology. This is the fact that the people who started Bodega issued an apology was great, but they maybe should have thought a little bit about how they issued it. So for instance, they said, I didn't mean to such and such. It doesn't really matter, because one of the things they were saying is they were trying to explain what they were really doing. They weren't really doing a great job of apologizing. Number 2, make your apology about the people that you offended, not about you. They were very defensive in their apology. Number 3, show that you actually understand the problem, and so on. So again, you can read all of these articles for yourself at chrisbrogan.com/CBM. But I wanted to pass that on because I think that there's a whole lot more to follow with regards to that sort of thing. And even though the article is titled 7 Things That White People Can Learn at Moments Like This, it's awfully important that you realize that it's, of course, how we can all learn about dealing with problems through apologies and whatnot. All right. I think anytime we see really cool future scientific, future cool stuff, I want to show it to you. So this is the Athena laser weapon system fighting an unmanned aerial. So I'll skip a little bit because it just shows it taking off. But this is a laser blowing up a plane, a drone in this case, out of the sky. And who doesn't really want to see that? Come on, lasers. So what makes it cool is just that, sometimes we're a little worried about what's going to knock us out in the world, what's going to cause us some kind of a problem or a dilemma. And I would say probably unmanned drones is one of those things that makes us a little twitchy. Don't worry, we'll shoot them out of the sky with lasers. And if you never watched those Austin Power movies, none of that joking is going to make any sense to you. I don't like to talk much about politics. It's just not my thing. I don't want to share too much about it. But I think it's interesting that when one senior president of the United States says to the people who play football, hey, anybody kneeling is a jerk and should be fired, I like that the way that this gets handled is that the team decides we're going to all kneel. So maybe don't threaten entire groups and industries, especially that deal with national sports. Now, should people or shouldn't people kneel when the national anthem is playing? I'm a big fan of the national anthem, not because of the song itself, but I'm a big fan of the symbolism of supporting our country. But if certain people say that they don't want to do the national anthem because in their mind that protests something that they feel is not right with our country, that's part of why all the soldiers I know fight what they fight for. They fight for the right not to support whatever you don't want to support in this country per se. They fight for the right for you to have your own opinion. And for someone else to say in a very nationalistic way, maybe don't do that. I think it's interesting that the NFL came back and said, oh no, we're going to do that. Moving along from politics, because again, I don't really care too much to talk about politics. This was an interesting article. The most important quality for an intelligence officer, according to the former CIA director, John Brennan, his whole point is that the best thing you should know about being an intelligence officer is focusing a lot more on what you don't know. Now, I want to take a quick pause on this to explain. He's not saying that whole thing where you say, I don't know, but I can get an answer to you. it's starting every kind of challenge with a problem, not with here's what we know, but what don't we know. And I think that that's a really important lesson for us to look at. I think it's really important for us to put together the concept of if we're not quite sure what we're supposed to cover, if we're not quite sure how something's supposed to work. So let's say you decide, I want to start selling online courses and I don't really even have the first clue how to do that. What don't I know? I don't know how to accept the money. I don't know how to tie the email system to the course system. I don't know how to send out or drip out the content. And you start listing it that way. That's how a former intelligence officer guy who ran the CIA, that's how they look at every problem. They don't start with the known goods, like I know this is what the course is going to be about, or I know that I have a website, or I know I'm going to charge $800 for this course. They start with what don't I know? And it's an interesting premise. It's one that I don't normally use, but I think I'm going to take a look at going forward. Now, are you worried that your debit card is getting skimmed with these new skimmer devices that show up in a lot of places, especially in gas stations, for instance? Worry no more, but only if you're an Android user. Turns out there's a Android app that is called a Skimmer Scammer because, by the way, Skimmer Scanner is the most horrible phrase I've ever had to say out loud. The way it works is very simple. The app actually uses a sensor to detect any random Bluetooth activity happening in sort of the general region of the place where you're scanning. And what's interesting about that is that all of these skimmers work by launching to a Bluetooth app. And so you get the opportunity to make a chance to detect that and thus maybe protect yourself and save yourself. Speaking of apps, though, even myself, I've thought, gee, if only I had this kind of an app that I could create, I could sell it, and I'll make millions. Who can't? Well, evidently, according to VentureBeat anyway, your chances of making a successful mobile app are almost zero. Problem is discoverability. There's just too many apps out there. There's just too much going on. If you were going to have a chance to try to make your app go viral, it's just very unlikely. In fact, the odds, mathematically, it says you'd have a better chance of making the NBA team instead of going viral. And there's a whole bunch of changes to the App Store that are going to make it even harder and harder and harder to make anything better happen for you in that regards. So if you're a burgeoning app creator, it might not work out for you. Hey, it turns out if you are someone who suffers from depression, it might possibly be sleep deprivation. Might be the best way to go after this sort of a thing. It says sleep deprivation may treat depression, but would it ever be prescribed? So that's a strange way to look at it. As someone who suffers from very mild clinical depression, I cannot imagine that the answer to this would be sleep deprivation. But what do I know? I haven't really tried it. It's not a method that I've tried so far. All right, looking for something to read? I've got a book suggestion for you. Autonomous is a sharp thriller about robotic freedom and patent piracy. It's written by Annalee Newitz. I haven't read the book yet myself. I read the review and it looked really cool. It's talking about some stuff that came from some real stories. So it says, for instance, this spring genealogy service Ancestry.com was accused of secretly claiming rights to users' DNA sequences. The company changed the policy, but this kind of get the thinking going on what this book might possibly deliver. So the concept is in this book called Autonomous by Annalee Newitz, and it is an interesting sort of biotech spin on some of the cyberpunk types of books that came out in the 1990s, which dealt with what kind of freedoms and or problems would show up in the lands of cyberpunk. Hey, I don't know if you've ever just browsed Airbnb just to look at properties you thought were kind of cool, but according to this article, these are the 9 most wish-listed Airbnbs in the United Kingdom. So I thought we could scroll through a couple of them and take a look. I mean, that bedroom looks pretty darned awesome. It looks huge and vast. And then as you walk along, there is this little boat that you can be on a barge. It's only 150 pounds per night. It's got a full bathroom, TV, Wi-Fi, a wood-burning stove. Look inside that. That's kind of cute. So again, these are the most wished for Airbnbs according to the people in the United States, in the UK, for their wish list. This is a little Airbnb inside a tent. But hey, if you're more like a castle-loving kind of a person, then have fun storming the castle. Pretty cool. I thought it was a sort of fun opportunity to check that out. All right. I am a giant Wes Anderson fan. He's done movies like The Royal Tenenbaums, The Fantastic Mr. Fox, Moonlight Kingdom. I don't know, that one, that's really good. And now he's got a new movie out called The Isle of Dogs, which is another of the Wes Anderson stop motion films, kind of like what he did with Fantastic Mr. Fox. I'll skip ahead just a tiny bit. Trash Island becomes an exile and you can see the sort of style of it. The Isle of Dogs. I don't think I can stomach any more of this garbage. Starring the voices of people like Edward Norton, Bill Murray, all the other typical Wes Anderson people. You know that you're going to love it if you love Wes Anderson movies, and I do, so I'm looking forward to this fairly intensely. One last story, if you are looking for an incredible, sometimes you think, I want to make this, and no one comes along and makes it for you. So sometimes you say, I think I would like a Scottish apocalyptic Christmas time setting zombie musical comedy, and good enough, there it is, Anna and the Apocalypse. So there is a new movie coming out called Anna and the Apocalypse that is a whole story about zombies showing up, and it comes in the time frame of Christmas time, and it is a high school zombie musical comedy thriller. So you can check out Anna and the Apocalypse, if you feel like getting yourself a big taste of delicious zombies. That's all my stories for today. You can go to chrisbrogan.com/cbm and check out all of these stories for yourself. As always grateful. If you want to tell me or share a story yourself, go to chris@chrisbrogan.com. Just send me an email there. I'm always happier to check out any of the stories you want to share. I made this whole thing with Ecamm Live. You can make your own if you want the best way to do Facebook Live for Mac. That's how you do it. Mike says, as I'm on the way out the door, nothing better than talking dogs to fulfill your childlike hopes and dreams. It is a beautiful, beautiful trailer indeed. Great time. Good talking to you. Merry Christmas. Via con quesos.